Hi guys, this is a quick guide how to survive chapter 4 and 5 of our textbook. Okay, so let's start from very easy concept. There are 4 kinds of macromolecules in the cell, and they are carbs, fats, proteins. Do you recognize your food label? And DNA. Now, we all have absolutely the same carbs and fats, and that's why we are not going to talk about those 2 types. Now, proteins. Proteins, we have slightly different proteins, and proteins make you who you are. Proteins will define your eye color, your hair color, the way you react, the way you study, the way you connect with people, everything. And DNA is a genetic code for the proteins. So this is number 1 thing to keep in mind, that DNA codes for the proteins. So those things in DNA called genes are those stretches of DNA that code for proteins. So the simplified version of the gene is 1 gene, 1 protein. Now the sum of all genes is called genotype. Then we have genes, we have proteins, eye color, hair color. These are called traits. So let's say gene for eye color codes for protein that makes that color in your eyes, and the eye color is called trait. Now the sum of all traits is called phenotype. So genotype is the sum of all genes, phenotype is the sum of all traits, and proteins are the macromolecules that will define traits. That is number 1 concept. Now let's look at the chapter, and you will see that there's a lot of pea plants. Pea plants after pea plants. Okay, I would like you to open this picture and take a good look on it. Now you see that each pea plant has seeds, and seeds could be round or wrinkled, seeds could be of yellow color and green and so on. Now I want you to understand that in pea plant DNA there is a gene of seed form, and then there is a gene of seed color, and then there is a gene of pod form, and so on. And I would like you to remember that these are the genes we're talking about. Now, as you can see that, let's say, for example, seed form can be round and wrinkled. So there are different versions of the gene out there. And those versions of the same gene are called alleles. So I would like you to write with your pencil the word allele right here. And each gene always comes in 2 alleles. You will get 1 allele from your mom and the other allele from your dad. Now there is a gene of seed color, but there is yellow allele and green allele. There is a gene of pod form. And there is allele of this gene that will give you inflated pod form or restricted. Now you see little words dominant or recessive. What do they mean? It means that if in the genotype one allele is, let's say, dominant and the other one is recessive, the appearance of recessive allele will be masked by dominant allele. So you will see that this particular plant will have a round seed form rather than wrinkled, or rather than something in between. So in other words, we call stronger allele dominant and weaker allele recessive. Remember that. That's your vocabulary. Now we also have two other words, homozygous or heterozygous, when we speak about a particular plant. You always have to remember that the plant or individual could be homozygous for one particular gene or heterozygous for one particular gene. So in other words, we are checking which kind of alleles, what allele combination we have for that particular gene. We always write dominant allele with a capital letter. Oh, just look right here. Look at the same picture. See, this dominant allele is marked by capital R letter. This recessive allele is marked by little cursive letter. So if we want to write genotype for this particular gene, we can write the following combinations. Some plant can get 2 dominant alleles. A plant could get 2 recessive alleles, or a plant can get different alleles. This genotype we call homozygous. Remember the word zygote. You see zygos here. That's from that zygote word. This genotype is also called homozygous. But in the first case, we call the genotype homozygous dominant. In the second case, we call this genotype homozygous recessive. And this genotype with 2 different alleles is called heterozygous. And in this case, we don't need to define it as dominant or recessive, because both alleles, they're just not the same. It's heterozygous genotype. Okay, the other vocabulary word that you need to know is autosomal or sex-linked. It's about the position of this particular gene, on which chromosome is it located. For example, in humans we have 23 chromosomes. 1 chromosome, or 1 pair of chromosome, X or Y, and the other 22, I'm talking about 23 chromosomes in the gamete, sperm or egg, or 46 in a zygote. Anyway, one chromosome is always sex chromosome, and 22 are called autosomes. So, if you are talking about some particular trait or genetic disease, you're always going to characterize it with two words. Is it autosomal or sex-linked disease? Where is that gene located? And is this trait caused by dominant allele or recessive allele? So that's how we come to so-called modes of inheritance. Of genetic disease or trait. There are only 4 modes of inheritance. Autosomal, dominant, autosomal, recessive, sex-linked. Dominant or sex-linked recessive. In other words, if you are saying that this particular trait or genetic disease is inherited as autosomal dominant, what you mean is that the gene for this trait or disease is located not on sex chromosome, on autosome, and the disease or trait is caused by dominant allele of the gene. If you are saying that, let's say, hemophilia is inherited in sex-linked recessive pattern, you are saying that the gene for hemophilia is located on X sex chromosome, and the disease is caused by the recessive form of the allele. Okay, that is going to be our vocabulary for this chapter, and let's see what we can do next.